What is going on, Misfits? Welcome back to another edition of Logician Tim Learns with me, your host, Logician Tim. That's right. This is the show where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a more informed gaming newbie. How about that? What's going on, guys? I hope you had an awesome Father's Day weekend. I know I did. And yeah, we're back. We had a cool get-together last night, as we do every month on the third Monday of every month. We have a meeting at our local game store, and so we get to kind of get together and with other people that are designers or aspiring designers or artists or whatever here locally, and just kind of meet up and talk about things and how can we kind of make this little community and kind of help each other out with advice and just kind of bounce ideas back and forth. And this is our third one last night, and it was just a ton of fun. So if you haven't done something like this in your local area, if your local area doesn't have a support group, make one. It doesn't have to be perfect. Ours definitely is not perfect, but it's just something to do to help build a community there where there was none. And so something is better than nothing. And we're starting to make some good relationships there, and it's just a ton of fun. So yeah, I definitely recommend you do that. But we're not here to talk about that tonight. Tonight we are talking about this Warhammer fantasy RPG. And specifically tonight, we're going to be talking about the GM guide and kind of like their tips and tricks and stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and bust open the book here and flip back to the page. Where are we at? 258. Yeah, we're getting on back there. So, yeah, here we go. All right. So the GM guide, again, guys, if you have any questions, like while we're streaming, go ahead and throw them in chat, and I usually can see them when they happen and I can answer them. If not, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions or whatever, feedback, throw them down into the comments on YouTube. I definitely like seeing those afterwards. Do me a favor, go ahead and like the stream, share the video, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. I definitely appreciate all the new subscribers and seeing all the new faces. It's awesome. All right, so let's jump right in. All right, the GM guide for the Warhammer Fantasy RPG, it gives us some tips and tricks to running the game. And a lot of these tips and tricks are made especially for like your new GMs, which I just love it when people do that, when books do that. A lot of the books kind of assume that the people reading have been GMs for years or been playing for a long time, and that they know a whole lot about how to run a RPG. But that's not always the case, and especially with games like Conan or The Witcher or Warhammer, some of these are going to invite new people into this RPG world that have never played before, have never GM'd before. And I think that's kind of important to have those tips and tricks right in the book, especially for those. Now, I just really enjoy it when the books give their own kind of tips and tricks in the GM section for those new GMs. I think it's just cool. So busting into here, they give us a lot of suggestions, and they start off by telling us kind of how awesome it is to be a GM. And while the players just get to control, one character, their character, you as the GM get to control basically the entire world, all the creatures, all the NPCs, everything besides the players. And so the Warhammer Fantasy RPG, they kind of recognizes that this could be daunting for a new GM, but they encourage you just to go for it, and that you'll get the hang of it, hang of things really quickly. So just jump right in. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just do it. But the first and most important responsibility that they tell us that the GM has, the first number one rule that the GM has, is making sure that we get all the rules right, no matter what. No. That's not what they say. Of course not. Of course not. What they say, the first and most important rule of all is to have fun, right? No matter what, have fun. And it's equally as important to make sure that your players are having fun, and the GM, guys. The GM gets to have fun too. So if you're not having fun, your players probably aren't having as much fun either. So make sure the GM and the players are both having fun, no matter what. That comes first, right? And so basically the stuff that they're going to show us here is that the advice in this chapter basically should fall secondary to that primary rule of having fun. If it's not fun, don't do it. And house rule anything out of your game if you're not having fun. I don't care if the book tells you to or not. Yeah, just get rid of it. the whole point of playing games is to have fun with your friends. So, yeah, just know that you're going to mess up the rules from time to time. You aren't going to have that next scene figured out, after the players are going to throw you some kind of weird curveball. You're going to get NPCs confused from time to time. That kind of stuff is going to happen. It's just going to happen. And the important part is just to laugh it off and move forward while having fun, right? So yeah, just don't be scared. Don't be scared to make mistakes. I make mistakes constantly. So yeah, just learn from it and move forward if you can. All right. So first, they kind of tell us some general advice for new GMs, or it could be a refresher for experienced GMs too. And a few of these they give us, they say get to know the book well. Read the book a couple times, kind of flip through back and forth a few times, and bookmark any kind of any sections that you'll be returning to often. So like if you have a wizard player in your group, then kind of refresh yourself on the magic chapter. Maybe have post-it notes or something like that in there. And I think it's a great idea to have pages bookmarked, with post-it notes or whatever, to find certain rule sets that you're going to be referring to often. So kind of have those sticky notes sticking out of your book. That's okay. It's not going to hurt it. And another idea, kind of I like to do is to make cheat sheets. I love cheat sheets. And so if there's like charts or a handful of pages of rules that you kind of need to have on hand, go ahead and print those out. Scan them in if you've got the physical book, or download the PDF and print out those pages and make sure that you can have them handy. And this is going to help the game flow just a lot more smoothly, and it's going to help the game from being kind of stalled out from you, like, oh, where was this page? Was it? No, it wasn't that page. It was this page. Let me flip back here. And you like flipping back and forth. It's just going to stall the game out, and your players are going to eventually look down at their phones and they're going to start flipping through their phones, and then you've lost them all over some stupid rule. Yeah, try to make your cheat sheets if you can, guys. It's awesome. And the GM screen, that's great for putting notes and making, like, turn that into your own cheat sheet. A lot of those have cheat sheets kind of built on them, but if not, use some tape and tape some cheat sheets up there, guys. And it just makes the game flow so much easier when you have that stuff right at your fingertips. Another tip that they give us is, give the players what they want from the game, but, do so without ruining your own plans. And I kind of took this as, there's really a fine balancing act, the fine line, right? It's a balancing act that happens in RPGs. And yes, the players are going to run off on tangents sometimes. And yes, you should give them the opportunities to do that. But you should also, give them the opportunities to re-engage with your plot and your adventure that you spent so much time working on and creating, right? Just for them. You spent hours messing around. So, goofing around is fun and goofing off is fun and all, but eventually the players want some type of plot to dig into, usually, right? Your group may be different. But I think, kind of going without, going off the script is fun for a while, but I think that would just get old and you would want to get involved with something deeper. And so, yeah, re-engage me back in the plot, man. As soon as you start seeing things kind of die down, re-engage them. Another tip they give us is to make sure new groups of characters kind of have reasons to be adventuring together. And I think it's important that your characters all have this reason to work together, so that they're fighting for the same goals, even if it's for different reasons, right? So like I might be trying to get the gold to help out my nephew. You might be trying to get the gold because you need a surgery for your brother, right? Or whatever. Maybe somebody else is just because they're greedy. But we're all trying to get the gold. And that's what the important thing here is, having that main objective, that common objective that our crew has. And I think it would just kind of get old pretty quick if everybody split up, and because then the GM has to tell a different story for each character, a different scene for each character. And so that means that only one person's getting their story kind of looked to and worked on. Everybody else is just looking at their phones probably, right? So keeping them all on the same page and working towards that same objective keeps the players engaged and the game running smoothly. So I think that's a good tip. Another thing they tell us is to ensure that the challenges that you set for your players are achievable, right? This makes sense. Any enemies that need to be defeated can actually be defeated. I think that's very important because, of course it's fun to make crazy creatures with like incredible, insane abilities and stats, right? That's a lot of fun. And yes, they're supposed to be difficult to kill, but just don't get carried away making things too powerful if the characters are meant to defeat them. I know it'd be very frustrating to me as a player to just get wrecked every time I engage in a fight, because the bad guys are just way overpowered. That's not any fun to me. So yeah, keep it winnable if the players are supposed to be able to win. Now, I understand that some players will engage NPCs that aren't supposed to be killed or attacked, or maybe they're not supposed to be attacked until later on in the story, right? And this is where you as the GM have to kind of give some hints. Like, you sure you want to do that? He's surrounded by 5 guards, and his magic seems incredibly powerful with that awesome staff he's holding. Therefore, at least you warn the players. Like, you might not want to do that right now, but if the players continue, no, I'm going to attack them anyway. Yeah, they deserve to get wrecked. But if they're supposed to be able to win, make it possible for them to win. So make the challenges appropriate for your players, right? Appropriate difficulty for the level of your players. And that's not just game level, but like their skill level as well. You don't want them being frustrated, and you don't want things to be just way too easy either all the time. Sometimes it's fun to be OP though. I remember playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a long time ago. I think I was like 11, 12, 13 years old. And we played one night, just totally got wrecked. And I think we played twice. And the second night we were like, all right, we're just going to be OP. We maxed out all our stats at 99, where we had every ability in the game. And it was fun. We just kind of ran around and just wrecked everything and did all these crazy superpowers. And it was awesome because we were like 11 years old, and it was a fun night. But I think that, as adults, that would probably get old after a little while. I don't know. Who knows? It might be fun. All right. Another tip they give us here is if you're playing a horror heavy game, then intersperse some light relief every now and then. And I think this is a pretty good tip. Not that I don't think Warhammer is a super like horror heavy game, but I guess you could make it that if you want to. But I really think what they're trying to say is, this idea should go with pretty much any type of game that you're playing, horror or not. Like switching up the pacing and also the tone of the game will keep it interesting and also fun. If it's a funny game, mix it up with some drama now and then. Or vice versa. If it's a drama game, mix in some humor now and then. It just changes pace and changes tone and keeps things keeps it interesting for the players, right? And yeah, it's probably especially important when you're playing like a really heavy horror themed campaign or adventure to mix things up with something funny or lighthearted from time to time, just kind of like as the occasional palate cleanser. But plus switching things up, especially in horror, kind of makes the scary parts even scarier, because you kind of give them a breath, like, okay, I can catch my breath, and then you kind of catch them off guard again, right? But if they're always on their toes looking for the next thing, then some of the scariness kind of loses its edge. And so just changing pace and changing tone can really help your story a lot. And the last piece of advice they give us here is decide which parts of the adventure should be easy and quickly resolved, and which parts should be, kind of drawn out and more dramatic. And again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying on pacing. So have parts of the adventure that are fast paced and resolve quickly, and others that kind of build slowly over time. And this keeps the adventure, again, interesting to the players. This pack of wild beasts that attacked you in the woods just randomly shouldn't get the same amount of time and drama that the boss that you've been chasing for like 3 months across the entire world should get, right? So make sure you're changing the pacing, the drama, and all that of your campaign as well. So pretty good tips that they have there. Now, they kind of tell us a little bit about, the book kind of goes on to give a little rundown of what the GM should be doing during the game itself. And again, these are some tips mostly for new GMs, but you can find some nuggets in these sections. Sometimes even as experienced GMs can find something new, or they might remember something that they wanted to kind of focus on or pay more attention on in their next game. So I think it's always worth your while, even if you've been doing this for 30 years, to kind of read these GM sections and pay attention. You might find something new or something you forgot about. Now, the first thing they give us here is kind of like at the table, what you're going to be doing at the table. And at the start of the game, they tell us that the GM should give sort of a summary of what has happened in the adventure so far, or some type of background on what's going on and why the characters find themselves where they're at, right? And if you think of it kind of like a TV show, at the beginning of some shows, at least, they have a little recap kind of to rememberize you. Yeah, I made that up. Rememberize you of what's happening, like kind of what's happened up to now, previously on Game of Thrones or whatever. And do kind of that thing, even if it's your first game, you can kind of talk about, here's previously what had happened in the weeks or months, leading up till today, where the characters found themselves. Or if this is your second or third, here's kind of recap what happened last adventures, and here's where you find yourself now. And this helps the characters kind of figure out what's going on and set the scene for them, right? And so you're going to start off kind of doing that. And next, you're going to provide the players with some immediate prompts to some type of action to make sure that the game kind of gets off to an exciting or at least a curious start, right? So you have the players and they're sitting there in their room or at the tavern or something like that, and a knock on the door from this weird looking stranger. That's going to put them right in some action, right? Or one of the things they said I thought was kind of funny is a jar of ale, arcing across the room of the tavern, landing near the player's feet. Just something that pulls them right into something happening that will get their attention quickly. I think that's kind of important to do so that you don't have just people going, "Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you?" Like, no, get them right into something right away. I think that's a kind of a cool tip. And secondly, they tell us to listen to the players. Of course, we need to listen to the players. So after you set this kind of scene and kind of got them started a little bit, you need to kind of give the players something to act on. You're going to kind of start listening to what they're saying. And this is where they're going to react to the scene that you just kind of set. And they're going to try to figure out what's going on here. And as the GM, you know the plot of the adventure, but the players don't. They have to figure it out. They have to kind of start piecing the puzzle together, right? And they're gonna be times where they take off in the complete wrong direction, and that's okay. Let them do that. They'll get back to where they need to be in the end, and you're gonna have a lot of fun kind of watching them go the wrong direction. Kind of watching it all unfold. It's kind of a fun thing. So yeah, as the players are taking their turn and they're describing what their characters' reactions are to this knock on the door with this weird-looking stranger, this ale being thrown at their feet, you're kind of listening to how they're reacting and responding to what you've set up. And you're kind of also making plans for the next scene, kind of trying to figure out where would be the best place to go next, right? And how you're going to get there. And so one of the things they tell us here is to make sure that every player, of course, has their turn to contribute to the story, right? You don't want just one person dominating and the other two people just kind of sitting there bored. No, you can kind of, go around the table one by one, ask them, what do you want to do? Or what do you think? Or, those type of things, kind of you get them engaged and give everybody their chance at, having their say. Now, the next thing they kind of tell us here is describing the consequences of the player's actions. And so you as the GM, you're going to react to the player's actions kind of depending on what they're doing, right? If they're talking to one of your NPCs, you're going to respond to them as the NPC, right? You get to play the NPC. You get to play every character that's not the players. That's your job. If the players are taking any actions that require tests or, rolls or whatever, to resolve, then you're going to decide, kind of the skill and any modifiers to that test, those type of things. You're also going to decide what happens because of that action, right? Kind of the outcome, right? So if the player failed their seduction roll or whatever, then what is the outcome of that? What does that mean to the story? And you get to make that up as a GM. So this is kind of like the player-directed phase of the game, if you will, where they're deciding kind of what actions they want to take, and you're just helping them, resolve those actions. And sometimes this kind of player-directed phase can last for quite a while. And the players are kind of moving that story forward with the GM kind of taking more of a reactive role to the players, right? And they kind of tell us that even experienced GMs get a kick out of watching how crazy the players can run off on their tangents, seeking out crazy things. And again, just let them. They tell us that some very memorable games are comprised of this this very improvised style of playing, and all these unexpected things that the players run off and do on their own that you didn't have scripted. It makes for really fun memories. And so I think that's a great tip. All right, now another thing that tells us is describing the events from the ongoing plot. And so while the player-directed phase is kind of going on that we're just talking about, the GM is aware of kind of the adventure plot, right? He knows kind of where things need to go. And at the appropriate times, events from the plot are going to come crashing into the story, right? So the players are kind of doing their thing, then the GM goes, blam, suddenly this happens, right? And that's kind of part of this overarching plot that the GM has in mind. And the players are going to have to like react quickly, right, to these events. They're not going to be able to have time to think them through very quickly, and they're going to be pursuing things kind of haphazardly. Of course, they haven't had a lot of time to think about it. And you as the GM can use these moments kind of as course corrections, giving the players like additional clues to what's really happening from this plot viewpoint, and to kind of get them on track if they've kind of wandered off. Now, you don't want to give away too much, though, because if you do, kind of tell them, no, look, guys, we need to get to the hills so that we can discover the kidnapper. Well, that kind of sucks, right? No one feels like, no one enjoys feeling like they're forced towards an inevitable conclusion, right? So let them kind of discover things and explore enough to get the clues to understand where they need to go, right? Don't throw the plot out there to them. That's no fun. So you want to give the players the freedom to kind of mess things up, but also don't be afraid to kind of modify your plot as well on the fly if it makes the game more fun. You know, if the players aren't having fun, they don't want to go to the mine to that's where the kidnappers are. Change it right away, and figure out what they want and do something else. And I think you just do that, So, what's up, K Foot over on YouTube? Good to see you, my dude. Good to see you. So yeah, then the next page of the book, those are the kind of like the at the table pointers that they had. And I think some of them are pretty worthy there. Some of them are common sense, but sometimes, like I said, you pick up some good little nuggets in here. And the next kind of section starts talking about, kind of goes over travel, like traveling from place to place in the Warhammer Fantasy RPG. And basically, it says you're going to be traveling pretty much by either boat or by road, either by foot or by, like stagecoach type things for the most part. And traveling on the road is relatively safe, like between the major cities, but kind of in the rural areas, it gets, kind of sketchy and dangerous. They tell us that there's like brigands and mutants and beasts that lurk out there in the woods. And some parts of the empire have been corrupted by this crazy magic or chaos or necromancy or who knows what, right? And, of course, travelers can often be attacked while on their journeys. And one of the cool things that I saw here, and why I wanted to bring it up about this travel, is what they call the travel events chart. And it's pretty neat. And the way this works is that the GM rolls a 1d10 for every day that the players are traveling. And this is just optional. You could just roll on this chart every day if you wanted to. If the roll is an 8, then something unexpected happened, and it's random, happened to the players, and then you're going to roll in this event table. I kind of like the idea of just kind of rolling on this table anyways, and taking out like it has to be an 8 for something bad to happen. Like I think you just roll on this table once a day and see if they got away with it or not. So some of the cool stuff they have in here is like you roll a 1d10 and it's going to tell you if you roll, a 6, then it was thieves and your stuff got stolen. It could be by, people that snuck in the camp, or maybe it's people you're traveling with stole your stuff. Or it could be something good, like you found a new clue, an unexpected clue to the adventure. Maybe you got attacked or ambushed, just depending on what you roll here. And I just think it's fun to have the GM rolling on something that could or could not happen. It could even have, if you roll a 1, it's a restful journey that, hey guys, you feel actually, in better shape when you got through with your journey. Like everything was fine, or you got jacked up, right? And your stuff is gone. So I think that's really cool. I like these random tables that the GM can just roll on, that the players, that kind of decides what happens to the characters, right? And it just sounds like it would be a lot of fun. It would just keep the players on their toes. So yeah, cool stuff. And that's pretty much it for the GM guide. I wanted to flip through the rest of the book real quick. The next chapter of the GM guide is all about Reichland. and it's kind of full of all the different people and the places in Reichland. And the information here, as you can see by this image here, is kind of meant to be kept secret and kept away from the players, and kind of allow the GM to roll out this information like as a part of the campaign, right? So I'm not going to be going over this part because I don't like giving out spoilers and stuff, but just know there's quite a number of pages. What is it, like 20, 30 pages on that, on the city itself, just people and places and the different types of stuff going on there. So it's kind of neat. Then there's like the consumer's guide in here, which is it basically like your equipment and weapons chapter for the most part. It goes over the markets and bartering, item quality, encumbrance, weapons, armor, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, all that kind of stuff is in there. I don't know. I know a lot of people don't play with encumbrance. Do you guys play with encumbrance, or is it just kind of common sense? Like, you can't carry around an anvil all day, dude. I don't care, right? Or is it just like, yeah, I mean, you can go ahead and pick that up. It just makes sense. But if you start picking up everything under the sun, I'm going to start slowing you down or causing you some health or something like that. How do you play it? I don't know. I think I'd probably just kind of house rule that into common sense. Just sounds like it's a kind of a pain, unless somebody started abusing it. They have weapons and stuff in here, different types of ammunition, armor, tools and kits, food, drink, and lodging, all this kind of stuff, books and documents, drugs and poisons, all types of craziness. Then we finally get to the last chapter, which is the bestiary. And it has all types of people and creatures that the GM can use as NPCs for the players to run into during their campaigns and their adventures. And just flipping through here is pretty neat. It really gives you a lot of ideas as a GM, you know, what to throw at the characters and when. You know, there's all types of different animals, from snakes, pigeons, to, I don't know what this is, a cave squig. It looks pretty awesome. Demogryph looks cool. Bog octopus, dragons. I mean, all types of neat stuff that you can throw into your game for your characters to run into at different places. Just sounds like a lot of fun. It has, you know, just a little quick paragraph about them, some stats, some traits, and different optional abilities and stuff like that. So you kind of flip through all here. The pictures are always awesome in the bestiary. That's one of my favorite parts of a book usually, is the bestiary. Also, I always like character creation too, for some reason. I don't know why. But I guess that's because I'm learning about like how things work, and I really enjoy that. And then they have all these creature traits as well for, you know, you can add to different creatures, from different type of bite ratings to breath ratings, champion, chill grasp, elite, ethereal, distracting. They have all these different abilities that you can put on any of these things as well. Just make it a lot more fun. You can make some a lot harder, or just give them special abilities. That's just fun to deal with. And really, that's about it. The character creation sheet. And that is it. That is it for the Warhammer Fantasy RPG. So, yeah, for tomorrow night, you get to join me as I kind of go back through my notes and the book again on everything, and we can kind of give this RPG some grades on the final report card. And it's always tough to give a report card on a book that I love. I really have enjoyed this book, but I want to be critical about it, just like I'm critical of other things. And so I'm going to try to do that tomorrow night and find out what I really loved and find out what I didn't like so much tomorrow night on Logician Tim Learns. That's right. All right. Thank you so much for watching. If you don't mind, again, just like that stream for me, like the video, share it. That's always awesome. I guess somebody shared me on Reddit a couple weeks ago, and I got a bunch of subscribers from that. I really appreciate that type of thing. On Twitter, Facebook, whatever, man, share it for me. I really appreciate it. Leave me some comments. I love seeing those comments on the videos too. I try to reply on those. Yeah, it's cool. All right, you all. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you all tomorrow night going over the Warhammer Fantasy RPG report card. Good night.